One of the great things about the Blackboard system is its ability to provide your students and yourself with communication tools. In this video, we're going to review how the email communication options are provided to your students through Blackboard. I'm in the communications area of this demonstration class, and there's several tools that are considered communication tools by Blackboard. The announcements tool, the collaboration, which is basically the chat and virtual classroom tool, discussion boards, group areas, group pages, messages, which is really an internal messaging tool which we really don't promote at CPCC because all students have email. It's really an email alternative. The student roster, which is a list of all the students in the class that may in fact display the students' email addresses, and the ability of a student to send email messages. Now, as a professor, you get a little bit of a biased view if you click on send email, because you as the teacher have the ability to send email to all the people in the class regardless. However, what a lot of people don't realize is that if you don't change some of the options, your students also have the ability to pretty much send an email to anyone in the class through Blackboard. For example, here I'm going to show you another window. I've logged into this same class as a student, and if I go into the communication area and I go to send email, I have the same options logged in as a student. I could send an email to everyone in the class, all the groups, all the students, all the TAs, all the instructors, individuals, or select groups. And in fact, I could send an email to all students and not necessarily include the instructor in that communication. There's been some concern over this. And so what I want to do in this video is provide you with a little overview of how these settings can be modified, and you can choose how this is presented to your students. Going back to my demo class, I'm here as the instructor. Let's go to the control panel, and then we'll go to Manage Course Menu. In order to get to the area where you can view how the email options are presented to the students, really you sort of have to do a workaround in Blackboard. If you go to the course menu and add the tool link for communications area, and it will name it communications. Now, if you already have this on your menu, if I cancel and come back and communications is already here, I don't need to do this. But if you do not have it, go to Tool Link, select Communications Area. It can be called Communications. You do not have to make it available to your students. And submit. So now there's the button. I hit Modify. And this button's a little different. A communications area is not a content area. It's basically a collection of tools, just like what we looked at under the communications area as a student. It shows all of the tools, and you now have the ability to choose which of these are available. For example, if I'm not using chat in my classroom, I might just want to make it unavailable in this menu. I might not be using groups. The internal messaging, I said earlier, to me, that's a bit of a conflict. I tend to take this off because we don't use the internal messaging. A roster, I personally have never left the roster enabled. I feel that if students wish to share their email addresses with each other, they can do so individually through the discussion board, through groups and projects they get working together on, but I don't make it readily available. I use discussion boards for that type of communication. And then the last one is the send email. Having this available to students through Blackboard is really powerful. It allows them to easily communicate with you while they're inside of Blackboard. However, they may not need all of these. I tend to go backwards. I tend to uncheck all of the boxes and then decide. I'm fine with the student emailing the TAs. And I'm fine with the student emailing anyone who's an instructor in a class. However, I'm not sure that I'm comfortable with a student emailing all users, all groups, or all students, or even select users and select groups without my knowledge using Blackboard, and not necessarily without the permission of myself or other students in the class to be sending them direct communication. So I tend to uncheck all except for the TA and instructor, and direct most communications otherwise through the discussion boards or through group areas. Once those changes are made, I then click on the submit button and I get a confirmation page. So let's look at how that changes the course. And again, once that's done, I can remove this really in case I want to edit it later. Usually I just make it unavailable. And again, if I remove it's gone completely. It's fine. My settings are still going to remain. If I modify, it's basically, this box right here would have to be checked for it to be available to students. Right now it's unchecked, so it won't show up to them. So if I come out to my course and I look at it, no communications button. Now let's go back to that student view. If I'm logged into this class as a student, and regardless of whether or not I have that communications button over here, they have the tools box with communication. You'll notice that the chat, the roster, all of those are no longer there because I unchecked those as options to display. I'm using discussion board and announcements in this class, and I've let the send email option, I've left that available. But now if a student clicks it, many of these options are no longer linked for the student, but the student can use Blackboard to send an email to the TAs or instructors. And just type in a subject, type in a message, and hit submit. So it allows me the ability to control the communication preferences on a more granular level as far as how and what types of emails I want my students sending out. The default way that Blackboard provides these classes does not enable that, does not provide that. So you do have to make that modification. And again, you do that through the control panel, manage course menu, have the communications area added. You modify that. You then don't have to have the communications button listed on the menu by unchecking that box. Turn on and off any of the tools that you don't want. And the last communication tool, email, you can uncheck and check the boxes for the types of emails that you feel your students should be able to submit. And then click the submit button for your confirmation page, and that will apply that change to your course. I hope that this was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to contact CPCC's Instructional Development and eLearning area at 704-330-6111 or send an email to idev@cpcc.edu.